This is the Google Pixel 10 Pro Fold. It's big, it's bold, and it looks a lot like last year's phone, but there are some key upgrades that help it feel a lot more practical. Let's jump into it. This is All Things Mobile. Now, one of the best things about the Pixel 10 Pro Fold is that it's keeping that same $17.99 price tag as last year. Not that that's cheap, but at least it didn't go up. And yes, the Google Pixel 10 Pro Fold looks almost identical to the 9 Pro Fold. But this year's model has a slightly bigger 6.4-inch cover screen, and the inside display is still 8 inches. But thin phone, this is not. The 10 Pro Fold is actually slightly thicker than last year's model, not that you'll really notice. It's 5.2 millimeters thick when it's open as opposed to 5.1 millimeters. But somehow, even after having used thinner foldables like the Oppo Find N5 and the Samsung Galaxy Z Fold 7, the Pixel 10 Pro Fold doesn't feel obtrusively bulky. It's obviously not as slick, and it weighs 43 grams more than the Z Fold 7, but somehow its thickness and weight still feel relatively proportional to its size. Now, do I wish this phone were thinner? Sure, that'd be nice, but it doesn't take away from how good it feels overall in my hand. Corning's Gorilla Glass Victus 2 covers the front and back. Now, I'm really obsessed with this new jade color here. It makes me feel one with my surroundings at Filoli Gardens, and you'll see that color carry over to the sides and a little bit to the front corners. But if you'd rather go for a more subtle shade, the Pixel 10 Pro Fold also comes in Moonstone, which is more of a silvery gray hue. The Pixel 10 Pro Fold has a new gearless hinge that's designed to be more durable. Of course, there's no awkward gap when the phone is closed. We're thankfully well past that point with foldables. And the phone opens and closes very smoothly. It doesn't catch at any point, which is great. Perhaps the most impressive new feature on the 10 Pro Fold is the IP68 rating. IP68 on a foldable. It's very exciting. So if this were a beach instead of just a pool and I was surrounded by sand, I wouldn't have to worry too much about those smaller particles getting into my phone and completely destroying it. It's a pretty big deal because foldables typically don't have very good protection against granular solids. The Pixel 9 Pro Fold didn't even have a rating for that, so this is quite an improvement. Take note, Samsung. Now let's talk about the displays. The 10 Pro Fold has a 6.4-inch cover screen with a refresh rate up to 120 Hz and up to 3000 nits peak brightness. I can still see the screen pretty easily, even in the bright sun. Google says the bezels are smaller. They're definitely still pretty prominent, but I don't find it distracting or anything. And if we open it up, you get this generous 8-inch display that's great for watching videos or multitasking in split screen mode. I can readjust how much space each app takes on the screen. But unlike the Galaxy Z Fold 7, you can only have 2 apps open simultaneously instead of 3. The inside display has that same 3000 nit peak brightness as the cover display, which is important for such a big screen. There's a neat drag and drop feature that lets you take an image or file from one app and drag it into another when you're in split screen mode, which is super convenient and makes us feel like more of a mini computer. And yes, the crease is visible, but not any more so than it would be on another foldable like the Galaxy Z Fold 7. And honestly, once you're watching something, you don't really notice it. The Pixel 10 Pro Fold has a 48 megapixel wide angle, 10.5 megapixel ultra wide, and 10.8 megapixel telephoto camera, along with 10 megapixel selfie cameras on the inner and cover screens. If that sounds familiar, yes, these are the same camera specs you'll get on last year's 9 Pro Fold, but there are some AI and software upgrades that do help to level up photos. One of the more impressive features is called Super Res Zoom. This lets you punch in up to 20x and then uses AI to sharpen that final image. So if I punch in on this clock at 20x, and then I take a photo, it actually sharpens that pretty well. Now, obviously, photos taken at Super Res Zoom aren't going to look as good as something that you take with one of the optical zoom levels, and it's nowhere near the 100x ProRes zoom that you'll get on the other Pixel 10 Pro phones. Although, given the fact that this phone has Pro in the title, I would have expected that same top-level experience here too. But still, it's pretty cool to be able to punch in digitally so far and still get that cleaner image. AdMe uses augmented reality and AI to make it look like two people are standing next to each other in a picture, even though you're actually taking turns photographing each other. That way, if there's no one around to take a shot of your group or you're feeling a little shy, you can just use this feature. On the Fold, you get this dual screen preview to help people get in the right position. AdMe has been around for a couple of years, but it now works on bigger group photos and is better at recognizing gestures. So if I put my arm out and then Faith stands in front of it, it'll know to move my arm to the back instead of awkwardly splaying it across her torso. You can also use that dual screen preview mode when you're taking regular pictures so that the person behind the camera gets a preview of what's being captured. And similarly, a rear camera selfie feature will let you flip your phone and see what's happening on the cover screen so that you can take higher resolution selfies and know you're still in the frame. If you want to see your photos roll in as you snap them, you can also turn on instant view and they'll show up on the left side of the screen so that you can review them in real time. There's also a camera coach feature that uses Gemini to give you tips on how to take a better picture. So let's see what it recommends here. So blur the background, we're gonna switch to portrait mode, then we're gonna go next. Then we're gonna say zoom into the person, so we're gonna go 2x. Oh, cute. And then we're gonna go frame the person from their waist up. So we're gonna go up a little bit. And then we're gonna take the photo, say cheese. There you go. Actually very cute. Thanks, camera coach. And here's another AI feature that I personally don't see much reason to use, but Pixel Studio lets you generate whatever you want in an image with a prompt. Add some birds. Oops. Okay. Overall, I do like the photos that the Pixel 10 Pro Fold takes. I think there's a general softness that's applied to some images, which might compromise sharpness, but nothing that I think is a glaring issue. And that super res zoom feature is pretty cool and makes me feel a little less afraid of using digital zoom. There are also other AI features on board like Magic Q, which is designed to show you helpful information related to whatever you're doing on your phone. So for example, if I call United about an upcoming flight, it'll automatically show my reservation information after combing through my confirmation in Gmail, or if a friend texts me about a reservation, it'll pull those details from my calendar and instantly drop them in the text message for me to send. There's also a super neat voice translate feature that will not only translate what somebody is saying on the phone, but will also use AI to mimic the sound of that person's voice, so it sounds like they're speaking your language.
The fact that I speak to you in Spanish immediately assumes that I have an accent when speaking English.
Yeah, so everybody watch one of Vanessa's videos and compare how she actually sounds to how she sounds in this translating feature. It's definitely much cooler than just hearing a robotic voice. Slightly creepier, yes, but definitely cooler. Moving on to battery. Google upped the Fold's battery to just over 5,000 milliamp hours. It's a pretty notable leap over the 4,650 milliamp hours on last year's phone. Google says the Pixel 10 Pro Fold can last more than 30 hours, and it has indeed lasted me a little over a day with regular use. This is kind of where the Pixel 10 Pro Fold not being super thin plays to its advantage. You get that bigger battery because there's more room to work with. A win is a win. When I charge the phone, it goes from 0% to 51% in half an hour, which is helpful when you need to quickly top off the battery. The 10 Pro Fold is Qi 2 certified, and magnets embedded in the phone make it easier to use accessories like Google's Pixel Snap charger and stand. Pixel Snap is like Google's version of MagSafe on the iPhone. And yes, MagSafe accessories work here too. The Pixel 10 Pro Fold comes out of the box with Android 16, and you'll get 7 years of software and security updates to help you stretch that $17.99 price tag. So what are my overall impressions of the Google Pixel 10 Pro Fold? It may not be the flashiest new device, and it's not very exciting when a phone looks almost identical to last year's model, but I think the 10 Pro Fold's superpower is that it focuses on what most people actually want: longer battery life, durability, and pretty solid cameras. Though I am a little bitter that despite the Pro in the title, this phone doesn't get the same level of camera specs and features as the Pixel 10 Pro and 10 Pro XL, including that wild 100x ProRes zoom, but I guess you can't have everything. But that IP68 rating here is a pretty big deal, and it helps this phone overcome one of the biggest durability challenges for foldables, so hopefully other companies follow suit. And as much as I hate to admit it sometimes, the AI features on here actually are pretty useful. Magic Q is super handy for instantly tracking down information so you don't have to dig for it, and voice translate is one of the wildest call features I have ever seen. I think tools like drag and drop help the Pixel 10 Pro Fold feel like a more practical tool that can actually make certain tasks easier, as opposed to just a flashy phone that folds in half. And in the same way, camera features like dual screen preview and instant view take full advantage of the display, so there's more of a reason to opt for a giant 8-inch internal display. I'd love to see more of those types of features in future Pixel Folds to really give the design more of a purpose. And so while the Pixel 10 Pro Fold may look like its predecessor, and it's certainly not as thin as its foldable counterparts, the fact remains, you should never judge a book-style phone by its cover. But I'd love to know what you think. Are you interested in buying the Pixel 10 Pro Fold? Do you have your eye on another foldable, or would you rather stick to something a little more standard? Let us know in the comments, and while you're at it, be sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe for more on all things mobile. Thanks for watching.